Okay, gonna do my best here not to spend ages at the start of the video talking about stuff that isn't connected to the main topic. So Skyrim has a big modding community. For anyone who hates it when I start my videos talking about stuff that at first glance seems to have nothing to do with the topic of today's video, guess what I'm about to do? So get ready for some context, yeah, because I don't do this for the hell of it. So Skyrim has a big modding community. This isn't exactly a revelation to anyone, since people have been modding that game since the dawn of time, or at least since the game came out. The reason I'm talking about this, however, is that there was one such mod that made waves in the community, titled The Forgotten City. No need to talk about what it was like, because we'll be spending the entirety of this video talking about it later in a bit, but for simplicity's sake, let's just say that it was such a hit that the modders who made it decided that they didn't need General Tullius to oversee their content, and that they will spread their wings and fly on their own. So they fucked off, not literally obviously, and started up their own company along with their very first game called The Forgotten City. There. Happy now? That didn't take long, did it? The Forgotten City is a first-person supernatural mystery game that relies heavily on certain mechanics that are present in games such as Skyrim. A vast majority of the game is spent talking to various characters, and the way the game handles it is exactly how Skyrim handles it too. You play the part of... I don't know, whoever you're supposed to be. You've woken up at a camp along a river with a girl called Karen looking over you all sus. She asks you who you are and where you've come from, so it is at this point that you get to choose what you look like, not that you'll ever get to see what you look like, choose your name, and what backstory you have, including stories such as being an amateur archaeologist, a thief, or a soldier, to name a few. And if you're wondering which of these you should pick, well, I picked archaeologist on my first playthrough, but in hindsight, I should have picked soldier because then you get to carry a gun with you for the rest of the game. Karen then tells you that she wants to speak to the manager, and that he had previously gone off behind you into some ancient Roman ruins. Oh yeah, we're in Rome by the way. So since there's literally nothing else you can do right now, you turn around and head into some ruins. At first, everything's cool. Some ruins and rivers and stuff, but soon you start to notice some weird shit. There are golden statues of people about the place, and while this isn't exactly strange, the positions they are in are. It looks a lot like these statues used to be people who were turned into gold, rather than being sculpted out of gold. Stranger still is that you do eventually meet the manager, but he too has been turned into gold, with a suicide note beneath him claiming that everything he did was in vain. But instead of turning back round and letting Karen know that actually you're the manager now, you instead press on, only to find a trapdoor that leads you into a Roman bathhouse, which in turn leads you into the city. It is here that you'll spend the rest of the game, by the way. You make your way through this forgotten city, and eventually you'll come across a portal, you know, basic stuff. You step through the portal and then BAM! You're back in time! It's Pax Romana, bitches! And every amateur historian out there has just got a semi. You are now 2,000 years in the past, and the city that was once in ruins and covered in gold statues has now come to life. Except for the gold statues. Some of them are still there. You're immediately greeted by a dude named Galerius, who's all like, "Oh, you must be the player character. Nice to meet you. You better come with me so we can explain what's going on." He then takes you to a Roman soldier called Horatius, who starts to hint about the mechanics of the game. You see, it turns out that the people of this city are in a bit of a situation. The city itself seems to be completely isolated from the rest of the world, and everyone is living under the fear of something called the Golden Rule. As the game states, the many shall suffer for the sins of the one. According to this rule, if someone breaks the Golden Rule, then everyone in the city will be punished for it. And considering that there are a lot of lifelike golden statues about the place that look like they were encased in gold in their horrific final moments, then you can make an educated guess as to what exactly happens if you, or someone else, decides to be a bad boy. Interestingly enough, Horatius describes it as decimation, but 10 times worse.
It would be 9/11 times 100.
For anyone who doesn't know what decimation is, it was used in the Roman army in extreme cases to restore discipline. All soldiers would be grouped up into groups of 10 and draw straws. The one who drew the short straw would be beaten to death by the other 9. Anyway, at first I was like, decimation times 10 equals 100. Wait, that's not so bad, that's just 1 in 100. But then I realised I was being an idiot. If it's decimation but 10 times worse, then instead of 1 in 10 people dying, it's 1 in 1 people dying. Wait, that just means that everyone dies. Why not just say, everyone dies, instead of saying it like it's decimation but 10 times worse? That was a really roundabout way of saying that we all die. That'd be like saying, breaking the golden rule would be like the Battle of the Milvian Bridge but 50,000 times worse. Anyway, with that needless rant out the way, you are taken to meet Magistrate Sentius, the dude who runs the place. He tells you that so far throughout his rule, everything's been fine. No one has broken the golden rule, as everyone lives in a state of fear over it, though some think it's just some kind of superstition. However, Sentius has it on good authority that the golden rule is going to be broken at some point today. It is now up to you to figure out who's going to do it, meaning that you're going to need to interview all of the city's inhabitants. However, as you go around town, you begin to realise that there's a bit of a problem with what you've been told so far. Basically, if anyone breaks the golden rule, then everyone dies. But if that's the case, then what constitutes breaking the golden rule? Since breaking it will mean that everyone dies, and considering that everyone hasn't died yet, means that the golden rule hasn't been broken, which in turn means that no one has a sodding clue about what isn't considered acceptable. So you go around the city and start finding out that most of the people here have their own problems that they're facing. These often act like side quests, though your reward for completing them rarely ends in items or money. Usually it will just mean that you'll get some more information, or in some cases you get dick for it. For example, there's a gal in one of the local temples turned hospital who's been poisoned. A local merchant has the antidote for it, but he won't sell it to you unless you give him a ridiculous amount of cash for it. So you steal it and...
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Save yourself!
Oh, f***. I was the one who broke it. I haven't even been here longer than an hour. At this point, some of those golden statues come to life and start shooting people with their bows, turning their targets into golden statues in turn. Fortunately for you, it's not necessarily the end, for Magistrate Sentius makes a beeline for the shrine you entered the city from and opens up another portal for you to escape through, meaning that if you want to survive this, then you'll need to make like a Roman officer, and leg it. After stepping through the portal, you'll find yourself back at the start of the day, and it is here that you realise how this game works. You'll spend most of the day interacting with the citizens of the city, gaining information and items, seeing or causing the golden rule to be broken, jumping back through the portal and starting the day all over again, but with a new insight or puzzle piece that will let you make more progress this time. This all kind of reminded me of the film Edge of Tomorrow, but with Romans and ziplines. Okay, don't ask me about the ziplines, alright? This game seems to think that breaking continuity in order to let you move around the map a little bit faster is okay. As you continue to talk to the people of the city and repeat a few more days, you begin to get the feeling that there's more going on here than meets the eye. You then realise that that was an incredibly stupid thing to say, considering that you've gone back in time 2,000 years, are repeating the same day over and over, and how a pagan-style apocalypse keeps happening. But what I'm trying to say is that there's something a bit more sinister going on behind the scenes here that you just can't quite put your finger on. This in turn leads me nicely onto both what I love about this game and what exactly I didn't like. But the good stuff first, I guess. First of all, the atmosphere of this game is nothing short of excellent. It does a fantastic job of portraying sheer terror and fear being held in check by the thinnest layer of peace. The metaphorical, and also a tad literal, sword of Damocles that's hanging above your head is constantly there, and you are painfully aware of that fact throughout your entire time. Since the official rulebook for the Golden Rule still hasn't been released yet, it is up to you to decide whether or not you're going to try something out that might help you progress your current quest. But then again, there's always that chance that it will mean that everything's going to go tits up and it's time for a redo. Can I kill people? Surely not. What if I set up an accidental murder? What if I convince people to kill themselves? Is that a violation of the Golden Rule? Sentius has given me permission to enter people's houses whenever I want, but the owner is yelling at me to get out. Is that a violation of the Golden Rule? What about bribery? What about lying? I want to give it a try, but I also don't want to get everyone killed because some of the characters here are alright. Speaking of characters, there's quite the modest cast of characters here, though thankfully, everyone is different with their own backstories and desires. Galerius is a farmer with a heart of gold, no pun intended, who's crushing on the local priestess. Dacius is a merchant who cares for nothing but profit. Olivia is a typical Roman nobody, but is secretly worshipping a Christian god in fear of persecution. And Georgius is a merchant from Greece.
But everybody calls me Giorgio.
But though they all mostly seem friendly and willing to give you their story, almost all of them have other shit going on that you'll need to dig up and question them on. Fortunately, you can go into people's houses and wreck up the place, though I would recommend against stealing anything for the obvious reasons. But checking out people's houses and rooms will often reveal bits of information about them that you didn't know before, or info that you could use against them. For example, I didn't realise at first that Rufius enjoys carving dick pics into stone, and no, I'm not going to show it here because I don't know how YouTube would feel about that. He's also the one who's been bullying Virgil, the gay German merchant, yet he has cock slabs in his room. I think I understand what's going on here, and I think he should just be honest with himself, though that never comes up in game. But talking to people around the city and checking out people's houses really does feel like you're playing a DLC from Skyrim. You even get that thing happen when you talk to someone and someone else just walks up to you and starts saying stock lines over the top of your conversation.
I feel like I've looked everywhere. At least everywhere I could get to.
Or that thing where when you start talking to someone, they shift positions a few times before turning to face you. Or in this case, the priestess shut the door in my face, yet kept the conversation going, meaning we're having a conversation through a door. Wait, I'm talking about bad stuff. Let's go back to the good stuff. I also really like how when you obtain a new item, you get hold onto it when you restart the day. I mentioned the antidote to the poison earlier on, and fortunately, that bottle will last you as many redos as you like. You can also just get Galerius to deal with this shit when you start a new day, providing of course that you manage to reach the conclusion of that related side quest in a previous day. This means that you don't need to keep saving the same people over and over again, and just get the farmer to do it for you, making each day feel like a continuation of the previous one, and not just the same one again. Graphically and performance-wise, the game works just fine, and the game is quite beautiful too, and while the soundtrack really did sound like it was ripped straight from Rome 2 Total War, it was also quite fitting for the setting. There are also many hidden secrets and things to find about the place, and though you think that the city is the entire game map at first, nearer towards the end of the game you'll actually unlock new areas to explore, and this was generally quite fun to do. Having said that, okay, and now for the bad stuff, and while I do hold that this game is incredibly well written, there are some sections that broke the immersion I felt. For example, you need to get dirt on Malleolus so he'll drop out of the magistrate elections. So you speak to his wife who hates him. She has info that you can use, but first you have to do something for her. She wants a bottle of wine, which according to her, there's almost none left in the city. So you go out and you manage to get a bottle of wine and take it back to her. She takes the wine and gives you the info. Makes sense. But let's just say that you then immediately break the golden rule and have to redo that day again. You still have the wine in your inventory, so you enter the house and approach Claudia again. She says, "Who are you and what are you doing in my husband's house?" You say, "I have wine." She then says, "Ah, say no more. Here, even though I don't know you, take this letter that incriminates my husband. I feel that this is exactly what you want for some reason." The game tries to rush through these conversations if you've already done it once before so that you don't have to sit through it all again, but from a logical standpoint, this makes no sense and I felt that it broke the immersion a bit. There were also times when you'd help someone out, ask them a simple question, and then they would react badly to it. You save Yulia's life and free her from servitude, and she's extremely grateful to you for it. But ask her if she knows a way out of here, and you are the worst kind of human scum to have ever stepped out in front of her. Look, it's not my fault you tried to kill yourself, and I was only asking if there was an actual way out of here, but fine, don't help me out. I guess I'll go back to staring at the dick sculpture some more then. I'm not sure if anyone else thought this too, but I had a real issue with the sound in this game. For the most part, it's okay, though all the characters' voices were a little on the quiet side, but break the golden rule and f*** me gently, my eardrums were having a heart attack. I'm not joking when I say that every time I knew I was going to have to break the golden rule, the very first thing I would do would be to turn down the volume. I'm convinced that my neighbours can hear me sometimes, and they must be thinking that I'm into some really kinky shit when they hear the words,
The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
bellowing out the window. Also, this game does unfortunately suffer from the sins of Skyrim, as there are other Skyrim issues that are present here. In one quest, the priestess has something important to tell you, and that you need to meet her at the baths to hear it. No one else can be present for this, so you follow her over there, which takes a while and also involves passing through a loading screen. But when I did this quest, by the time she arrives at the place where you're supposed to meet her, she then immediately started running all the way back the way you came because she needed to be present for the election that was being held. And I couldn't talk to her this entire time due to her being busy. Actually, this wasn't the only time this would happen either. There were several times where characters would literally stand around doing absolutely jack shit, but will not speak to you because according to the game, they are busy. Well, guess I'll go look at the cock tablet some more then. Eventually, you begin to learn the true nature of what's going on here, and despite the developer's message on the main menu asking players to not spoil anything, well, actually, they asked us not to spoil anything after the White Hall, of which I'll get to soon. While I'm not going to spoil it for you in case you wish to play this game, let's just say that the first of many plot twists isn't exactly going to come as a surprise. Honestly, I saw it coming a mile off, as it's kind of hinted at quite a bit. But as for the White Hall part, well, the game has multiple endings, and this part is connected to the true ending. Without giving too much away, essentially what happens is that you need to confront the person who's really in charge here, and though throughout the game you've been seeing different ancient cultures and peoples, the story after you hit the White Hall just turns crap if I'm honest. The big reveal is in this section, and honestly I wasn't a fan. Now, I'm going to respect the developer's wishes here and not show it to you, as well as try not to spoil it to you at home, but I also can't finish off this video without complaining about this part, because honestly, it's the worst part of the game for me. So, to explain it without actually explaining it, imagine you walk through this door and then the game turns into the ending from Assassin's Creed 2, but it's an episode of Ancient Aliens. There's also one of the worst philosophical debates to be had in video games here. Like, honestly, I've never seen so much hypocrisy before. And then you get the ending. Oh boy, and now for the ending. Well, in the true ending, everything works out great and pretty much everyone survives. You're hailed as a hero and everyone gives you a big round of applause. This ending was only one sing-song away from being the ending to Limbo of the Lost, and I'm f***ing glad they didn't go there. Also, this ending raises a metric ton of questions, as I'm sure there's some paradoxes going on here, but at least Aurelia is in Nigeria being abducted by a scammer. Finally, there's the combat mechanic here to talk about. And yes, you heard that right. I said mechanic, rather than mechanics. If you start the game with a gun, then you've got a gun. But while that sounds great, it's also unnecessary, since you gain a bow that turns people and things into gold when you shoot them later on anyway. Though the gun can be used to kill one type of enemy that you can't kill normally. And this is where the combat comes in, because there are some sections of this game that acts like an Elder Scrolls style cave or dungeon. You'll occasionally get attacked by partially broken golden statues, and you'll need to shoot them to recover them in gold. If you're wondering how using the bow works in this game, then it's almost identical to how the bow works in Skyrim. In fact, I don't think they changed anything, except for the zoom feature, which isn't present here. But the combat sections were so few and far between that I don't know why they were included in the first place. The bow is used more for puzzles, and even then not that many. Upon reflection, I think the game should have focused more on implementing more puzzles that needed the use of the bow rather than having enemies in the game. And before I forget, we'd better get True Review's best line in there before the video ends. True Review's best line.
I hate the fact that my survival depends on the common sense of other people.
True Review's best line. In conclusion, despite quite a big section just there where I moaned about stuff, this game is easily one of the best I've played in a while. The atmosphere is 10 out of 10, and I'd probably recommend this game on that alone. The writing is also extremely clever, for the most part that is, and it handles the time loop mechanic really well. In an ideal world, there would have been more puzzles and more quests, since the game is relatively short and I finished the game wanting more. Unfortunately, there's not much replayability going on here, since the other three endings don't take that long to get. In fact, ending number 1 can be achieved by shooting Sentius the moment you get the bow. or with the gun immediately as you enter the city. But considering that this is an indie title by a company that's only made this game and nothing else, then you can colour me impressed, and I'm extremely interested to see what else this company produces in the future. And while I'd love to say that this game gets a 10 out of 10 perfect score, there are elements to it that really need to be addressed. The problems that Skyrim still faces even to this day are present here. Volume balancing needs to be looked at, expanding the game is something else I'd love to see, and the less said about the ending the better. Unfortunately, this all brings the score down a little bit, so I'm going to have to give this game a... Wait, is that a goose that you can talk to? And it says honk! I've changed my mind. 10 out of 10, Game of the Year. See ya!